Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning in the old cookbook show. Now on Wednesday's show, I unboxed a bunch of cookbooks sent in by you, the viewers. Thank you very much for sending them in. One of them was this book, and it really caught my eye. It's recipes from the Soothsayer Flour Company. Bakes everything right, and you find it at your grocer. Now, this is a cookbook in a duotang. And I've only had it for a few days. I've only had it out in the open for a few days, and I've tried to do research on it, and I'm running into a bunch of dead ends around it. I can't find out a lot of information about the Soothsayer Flour Company. I can't find out a lot of information about its parent company. There are several of these or similar books for sale on eBay and Etsy. And when I say similar, each one would be different because you got the duotang, and then you signed up for their recipe club. And every month or every 2 months, they would send you an envelope with some 3-hole punched papers with recipes on them, and you would put them in the duotang. And so the recipes in here span sort of 1936, 37, 38. The book is not in order. They're sort of jumbled in and out of order all the time. And I'd love to get more information on it, but it seems to be kind of hard to nail down. I'm going to keep looking. It's fascinating. I had never seen anything like this before. And I'm so glad that I've got it. Today we're going to do something called cowboy cake. So cowboy cake starts out with some flour in the mixer. We're going to put some brown sugar in the mixer. A lot of brown sugar. Some salt. And it calls for shortening, and in this case I'm going to use butter. While that's mixing away, we're going to get the buttermilk and eggs ready. So, this recipe calls for soured milk. 1 1/4 cups of soured milk. In this time frame, sour milk would mean milk that you had left out to go bad, to go sour. Naturally occurring yeasts and bacteria would invade the milk and cause it to sour. Today we buy it at the grocery store as buttermilk. This is artificially inoculated milk that is soured. Now when I read through the recipe, it asks for 1/2 teaspoon of soda and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That tells me that the baking powder, this is coming together really well. That tells me that the baking powder is doing most, if not all, of the leavening. The baking soda is probably there for another reason, but it might be doing some of the leavening because the acid in the buttermilk would be reacting with it. But we're not looking at needing the acid from the buttermilk in order to activate the leavening agent. Kind of a roundabout way of saying the buttermilk is there for the flavor. So don't fall back on that old saw of, I'm going to put in a little bit of vinegar to make buttermilk, because what you're doing is you're just acidifying the milk. You're not actually making buttermilk. And you'll be missing out on all of the flavor that the buttermilk brings, which is really what this is here for, flavor. I mean, the acid in here is also going to bring a tenderness to the cake as well. But, you know, flavor and tenderness, you kind of need both, I think. Okay, so this is ready to move on. Now, I'm supposed to take 1/2 of this amount out, and we're going to use it as a crumble topping. So we'll spoon out about 1/2, and I'm just thinking about 1/2. So this is a corporate-driven community cookbook. All of the recipes are submitted by people in the recipe club, I guess. And it seems to be centered Iowa, West Virginia, Kansas, what are some of the other ones? Missouri, Illinois, I guess that's where this flour was distributed. I really would like a whole lot more information about this, but I just haven't been able to find it. Now into here we go. Baking soda, baking powder, cinnamon, and some nutmeg. Okay, so we'll give this another mix. And once that's mixed up, in goes the buttermilk and egg mixture. Now, it looks a little bit soupy. I'm just going to spoon a little bit of this back into this batter, just to stiffen it up a little bit. That should be good. Okay, so this has caused me some problems. The recipe calls for an oiled loaf cake pan. Loaf cake pan. And I thought maybe it was just this recipe, because to me, a loaf pan is completely different than a cake pan. They're two separate things, and I've never seen it called a loaf cake pan together. And I looked through this book, and I see that most of the cakes, what I would consider to be cakes, are cooked in what's called a loaf cake pan. So I initially thought this 9x9, just a regular cake pan, it might be a 9x13 or 9.5x11, because there's quite a bit of batter there. There's no dimensions given, and I've seen a couple of comments go by recently where people say, you never say what size pan you're using, and it's, in these old recipes, pans, weren't really prescribed. And I've had someone else say, I thought you always had to cook in a square pan when it says square pan or round. Can you cook a cake in a round pan or a square pan? Yes, you can. Because in this time period, they just told you to bake it. And you, as the person making it, used whatever you had in your kitchen. If you had square pans, then you always cooked in a square pan. If you had round pans, you cooked in a round pan. This was not a time period when people went out to the store to buy a pan specifically to make one kind of cake, because the recipe told them they had to use a round 8.5-inch cake pan. That's not the case here. You're allowed to cook it in whatever you want. All that to say, I'm a little bit confused right now, because I think I probably need a bigger pan. Okay, here we go. Bigger pan. We'll get the batter in there. Now, I probably could have split the difference in terms of pan size. This one may be a little bit too big. The other one would have definitely been too small. So somewhere in the middle between a 9x9 and a 9x13. This is going to be fine, though. It's going to get us there. Oh, that's sweet. That is really sweet. When I first read the recipe, I'm like, 2 cups of brown sugar. That's a lot of brown sugar. Now, the rest of what we pulled out gets sprinkled on as a crumble on top. Okay, and then nut meats. And when they say nut meats, you can use whatever you want. I'm going to use pecans because I like pecans. Now, it does give an oven temperature. It says moderate oven, and then in parentheses 350 degrees. So the oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and it says 45 minutes. I'm going to put it in for half an hour and then watch it really closely. That is something you should do every time you bake something for the first time. So there we go. Oh, it's a good looking cake.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends. It's cake time. Hurrah.
Cowboy cake.
Okay, there's no cowboy candy in it, is there?
No.
Okay, just checking. Just,
Super sweet, super moist, super flavorful.
It's a nice cinnamon cake. Is that like just straight up brown sugar on top?
So,
Like, what's going on there?
there's 2 cups of brown sugar mixed in with what? 2.5 cups of flour and the butter. And then you take some of the brown sugar butter flour mixture out to sprinkle on top. There's a lot of sugar in this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It does taste just like straight up sugar on top with that crumble. Mm-hmm. That's really good though.
I'm glad it proves. Mm-hmm. That's a nice spice cake.
Thank you, Mrs. F.M. Fagan from Bellwood, West Virginia, for sending that into Soothsayer flour. And if you know anything about Soothsayer flour, let us know down in the comment section. Because so far I'm not able to fill in many of the blanks about the company, about this book.
Tell us more.
Tell us more. But this cake's a winner. So make this cake while you're typing to us, telling us all about it. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.